Hey collectors, before we get started with this week's concert poster conversation, I want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so that you don't miss any of the content GoCollect has to offer.
Hello and welcome back to another concert poster conversation with Glenn Troche from the Psychedelic Art Exchange. My name's Katie. Today we're moving away from San Francisco and into Detroit, and we're going to talk about this GRANDE Ballroom poster. Before we talk about the actual poster, though, I'd love for you to talk a little bit just about the GRANDE and the importance of the venue.
I mean, the GRANDE Ballroom was Detroit's venue in the psychedelic 60s, and it was not San Francisco. It reflected Detroit, the energy of that city, whereas San Francisco was always sort of a bohemian enclave. Detroit was blue-collar, America, hard-working identity, and it, that was reflected in the music that came out of the GRANDE Ballroom. The MC5, who appeared on this, which is the first poster from the GRANDE Ballroom, ended up being the house band, and they were not flowery San Francisco. They were rock and roll. They were hard edge. They were extremely influential. Them and Iggy and the Stooges were the forerunners of punk, heavy metal, hard rock. It was not jammy flower child music, and it was a wonderful thing. This was really, one of the most authentic and sincere venues. It's incredible that this material has survived, and the importance is equal to the San Francisco posters.
Right, and one of the coolest things about the GRANDE is not only did they have like the MC5 and the Stooges coming up through there, but they also had all the like British invasion bands playing there too, and there's some really good stories there as well.
Oh yeah, it became the favorite venue in the States for the Who. Zeppelin played there. It was a magical place from all reports. The lineups were as diverse in some respects as the San Francisco venues, but it always had that Detroit hard-edged sound.
Yeah, and we can talk about this poster a little bit now. It's a really cool piece. It's cardboard, done by Gary Grimshaw.
Yeah, this is again number one, the most important number in collectibles. You're always chasing the number one if you're trying to complete a set, and one set to chase is the GRANDE. The GRANDE did not create posters for every single event. There are a lot of handbills, postcards as well to complete the set, but it's one of the most unique, important series in poster collecting and rock poster collecting. This one being on cardboard makes it especially important. And the quantities that these were printed in were very low, lower than the San Francisco stuff. At the height of the GRANDE, they were printing 500 copies, and the survival rates are super low, especially for the really important and sought after titles. But this is everywhere as scarce, important, valuable as the Family Dog #1, the Bill Graham #1, harder to find too. This is a gem.
I think I remember hearing a story about Gary Grimshaw, who did a lot of these posters. He was like in the military, and he went to San Francisco, and he saw Mouse and Kelly's posters, and then went back to Detroit and decided that that's what he wanted to do.
And well, also Russ Gibb, who was the promoter, went to San Francisco, saw what was going on there, came back inspired, and started this wonderful venue. And Gary Grimshaw did many of the first posters, and then later Carl Lundgren. But Gary was an equal to the San Francisco artists. He had a wonderful style. He was, he cared very much about the music and the culture, and should be and is revered.
I think, did Rob Tyner do a couple posters too, the singer for MC5?
There were...
Wayne Kramer, one of them.
I mean, you have information that I probably don't, and should, forgive me. Well,
Well, and moving on to the artists reflected on here, I know there's a great story about the MC5 and Kick Out the Jams, and I'd love for you to talk about that a little bit.
Well, there's a lot of great stories about the MC5 and what was it? What was the name of the department store where they were promoting the? Well, that's a whole nother thing. There's a great documentary about the Grande Ballroom called Louder Than Love, and one of the more charming stories in the documentary is about when the San Francisco bands, I think particularly Big Brother, came to the Grande and were warming up or doing sound check or something, and it was more of a noodly sort of not going anywhere thing, and I think it was Wayne Kramer or something. They were listening to it, and the response was, "Kick out the jams, motherfucker," which became "Kick Out the Jams" was the title of one of the
it's their best known song, easily,
so.
For sure.
And that followed them. There's a lot of fun stuff. I mean, the MC5, Iggy and the Stooges, Ted Nugent and the Amboy Dukes. There was a whole local scene, and then all of the national
Prime Movers.
The Prime Movers, yeah. There's a great story. It's not as obvious as the San Francisco story, but on a collector's level, these posters are a lot scarcer, a lot harder to track down than the San Francisco material, and especially this one. This is an impossible to find poster. I've held 2 copies in 15 years.
So this one's like a 5.5. Do you know of any out there that are in better condition, or is this about what you'd expect from this exact poster?
Not many copies have been run through certification and grading yet. 5.5. I mean, this is almost a perfect copy. I don't know how much better you could do this, but it brings out a point about certification and grading. We're still in the early stages of certifying posters, and a lot of the grades have skewed toward the high end because collectors are just dipping their toe in the water, and it seems like the higher grades are getting better auction results, and so people are gravitating. But something like this is the case where scarcity trumps condition. I mean, if you would find this in a high grade, I don't know, it would be something that would have to have been out of the sun, out of anybody's hands for decades. So, I mean, I don't think that 5.5 is an embarrassment when you're talking about this poster.
Not at all. So, how much is this worth?
I'm almost becoming trite with my response because this market is still relatively in its infancy. But if the 20 to 25 today, I think it's 50,000 tomorrow, and with FD26s, which are super important but a lot more plentiful, are breaking the $100,000 mark.
That could easily be up there within the next
I mean, this is
years.
as important a poster as there is in rock collecting.
And I'd love to get your opinion on that. If you have any ideas about value, if you have any interesting stories about the Grande, or if you have opinions about different venues and which posters you like better, drop a comment below this video. If you've got any more questions about price and value, check out our concert poster price guide. We've got all that information right there for you. Thanks again for liking, subscribing, and commenting, and we'll see you back soon for another concert poster conversation with Glenn.